6 months ago, I had a job, copywriter at a mid-size agency, good salary, good team. I was good at it. Then they brought in an AI tool, ran a 3-week trial, and let go of 4 of us on the same Friday. My boss said it wasn't personal. He said the output was comparable. But here's what he didn't say. 3 months later, the agency lost a client, a big one. Not because the AI copy was wrong. It was technically fine. It was because the client said it felt like it could have been written by anyone about anything for anyone. No voice, no memory of who they were, no sense that anyone actually understood their business. They left and took their retainer with them. I watched that happen from the outside, already gone. And I've been freelancing since then, rates half what they used to be. Every client telling me they can just use ChatGPT. So I need to know, honestly, is there anything left? Or did I spend 7 years building something the market no longer needs?
The market still needs it. The market just stopped being able to see it clearly until now.
Okay, what's the difference?
The AI didn't take your job. It took the part of your job that was closest to a template, the part that could be described in a prompt. Write a product description for a wireless speaker, casual tone, 200 words. That's gone, not coming back. But that was never the valuable part of what you did, even when it was what you were paid to do most of the time.
So what's the valuable part?
Let me ask you something first. In the last 6 months of freelancing, has there been a moment where a client sent you something AI generated and you read it and immediately knew exactly what was wrong with it? Not wrong grammatically, wrong in some harder to name way.
All the time. Last week, actually, a client sent me a product email their tool generated, and I read the first line and I knew. It was technically fine. Correct sentences, right length, hit the brief. But it sounded like it was written by someone who'd never actually used the product. Like it was describing the idea of the product, not the thing itself.
What did you do with that?
I rewrote the first 3 sentences and sent it back.
Did the client notice?
They said it was exactly what they needed and asked why the AI version felt off.
That's the answer to your question. The valuable part is what you just described. You didn't spend 7 years learning to write. You spent 7 years developing the ability to feel the difference between something that works on paper and something that works on a person. Those are not the same thing. AI can do the first. It cannot do the second. And here's what I want you to hear before we go any further. You didn't waste those 7 years. You were paying tuition for exactly the skills the market now needs most and doesn't know how to find.
I haven't thought about it that way.
Most people haven't, because the skill was invisible when it came bundled with the generation work. Now that the generation work is gone, the skill is all that's left. And it turns out the skill was the valuable part the whole time. There are 5 of these forgotten skills. You already have at least 2 of them. Let me show you all 5.
Okay.
Skill 1, taste, not opinion, taste. The ability to look at 10 outputs, 10 AI-generated pieces of writing, 10 designs, 10 strategies, and know which one is almost right, which one is exactly wrong, and why. AI can produce volume. It cannot evaluate volume. It has no stake in the outcome, no lived experience of what lands and what doesn't, no ability to feel the difference between something that technically works and something that actually moves people. The people who will be paid the most in the next 3 years are not the ones who can generate. They're the ones who can edit at the level where it matters. Not grammar, not structure. The level where something shifts from forgettable to worth sharing.
I do that. I've been doing that my whole career. I just didn't know it had a name separate from writing.
Most people who have it don't know how to sell it separately because it used to come bundled with the generation work. Now that the generation work is cheap, taste becomes the thing you sell on its own, and it's worth significantly more than what you were paid when it was bundled.
How do you actually sell taste? What do you tell a client?
You tell them you make their AI output not sound like AI output. You tell them you're the reason their content doesn't embarrass them in front of their best customers. You tell them you're the filter between what the tool produces and what the audience actually responds to. That's a real service. It's new. Most people haven't figured out how to charge for it yet, which means the market for it is currently underpriced.
But here's what I keep running into. Most of my clients now, I've never met them in person. It's all video calls. 30-minute introductions with people I don't know, and I need to win the project before the call ends. How do you read a room when the room is a Zoom grid and you have no history with anyone in it and no right to make a mistake?
That's exactly the right problem to name, and it points directly to the second skill. Skill 2, room reading, the ability to walk into a meeting, a pitch, a difficult conversation, and understand what's actually happening underneath the words. Not just what people are saying, what they're protecting, what they're afraid of, what they need to hear before they'll agree to what you need from them. AI can process a transcript. It cannot read a room. It cannot feel the moment a negotiation has shifted because of how someone moved in their chair. It cannot notice that the person with the budget approved isn't the person with the actual veto power. It cannot sense that the meeting is going well on the surface and badly everywhere else. This skill is ancient. It's what salespeople, therapists, lawyers, and good managers have always done. It disappeared from the list of things people consciously cultivated because for a while, you could succeed in a lot of roles without it. You could just be good at the deliverable. The deliverable is now cheaper. The room reading is not.
I'm not naturally good at that. Can you actually learn it?
Yes, more reliably than most people think. It's built through specific practice, deliberate debrief after every conversation where something didn't go the way you expected. Not what did I say wrong, but what was actually happening in that room that I didn't see until later. People who do that consistently for 12 months are meaningfully better than people who don't. People who do it for 3 years are in a different category.
What's the difference between this and just being good with people in general?
Good question, because the next two skills sound similar and they're not. Here's the distinction. I know someone, a consultant, genuinely brilliant at reading rooms. She could walk into a tense client meeting and within 10 minutes, she knew exactly what the client was actually afraid of, what they needed to hear, where the real objection was hiding. Her radar was perfect, but the moment she tried to act on what she sensed, she'd say something slightly too direct, something true but not yet earned. The client would go quiet. The meeting would end politely and go nowhere. She could read the room. She couldn't build trust fast enough to use what she'd read. And those are two completely different tools. One is a radar. The other is a scalpel. You can have a perfect radar and still cut in the wrong place.
Okay, so the radar picks up the signal. But if I'm on a first call with someone I've never met, I have no history with them, no context, nothing to remember. What do I do with what I sense if I have nothing to anchor it to?
That's the third skill. And it's what bridges the gap between a first call and a relationship worth having. Skill 3, contextual memory. The ability to hold a long, complicated relationship in your head, to remember that this client tried this approach 18 months ago and it didn't work for a specific reason that isn't in any document. To remember that this person's real concern isn't the budget, it's that their last vendor embarrassed them in front of their boss. To carry the full history of a human relationship and use it in real time. AI has no memory between sessions unless you build it one manually. It treats every conversation as the first one unless you work to prevent that. It cannot hold the texture of a 3-year relationship, the trust earned, the mistakes made, the specific sensitivities that make this person different from every other person with the same job title. The people who will be worth the most to organizations in 3 years are not the people who know how to use the tools. Every organization will have people who know how to use the tools. The people who will be irreplaceable are the ones the clients and partners actually want to talk to because they remember, because they carry the relationship in a way the tool never will.
That's interesting because in my last job, I was always the person people came back to. Not because I was the fastest or the cheapest, because I remembered things, I knew their history.
That's not a soft skill. That's a retention mechanism worth real money to any organization that depends on client relationships. The question is whether you've been selling it that way.
I haven't. I've been selling it as I'm a good communicator.
Good communicator is worth $40,000. The person your clients call when something is wrong because they trust me to hold the full context of our relationship is worth significantly more, and it's a completely different pitch.
That's the thing I keep getting stuck on though. Even if I remember everything about a client, even if I read the room perfectly, I still freeze when it comes to actually telling them what to do. I keep waiting until I have enough information to be sure. And by the time I feel sure, the moment is gone.
You just described the fourth skill by describing its absence. Skill 4, synthesis under ambiguity. The ability to take 5 conflicting things, 5 data points, 5 opinions, 5 priorities that cannot all be true at the same time, and make a clear decision or recommendation anyway, without more information, without consensus, under time pressure, with incomplete data, in a situation where waiting for certainty is more expensive than being wrong. AI is extremely good at synthesis when the inputs are clean. It becomes unreliable when the inputs are contradictory, when the right answer depends on a judgment call that can't be fully justified with data, when someone needs to make a call and own it. The word for this used to be leadership, but it exists at every level. The junior person who can walk into a confusing situation and say, here's what I think is actually going on, and here's what I do, without waiting for permission to be certain, that person is increasingly rare and increasingly valuable.
Because most people are going to outsource that to the AI.
Most people are going to ask the AI what to do and then do what it says, and then be surprised when it's wrong because the situation had context the AI didn't have. The person who can make the call and take responsibility for the call becomes the most important person in any room where the AI keeps hedging.
I think I've been doing the opposite of this. Since I lost the job, I've been waiting to feel certain before I make any moves.
That's a normal response to a shock. It's also the thing that will keep you stuck longest. The market you're moving into rewards people who can act on incomplete information and correct as they go, not people who wait until the path is clear. The path doesn't get clear first. You make decisions and the path gets clear behind you.
Okay, but here's what scares me about all of this. Reading the room, remembering the context, making the call. What if I do all of it and the client still doesn't trust me? What if they just don't believe I'm the right person? I can't fake a track record I don't have yet.
You can't fake it, but you can do something riskier and more effective. Skill 5, saying the uncomfortable thing first. Not charm, not rapport, not making people like you. The specific ability to walk into a conversation with someone you've never met, someone who hasn't hired you yet, someone who could close the tab right now, and say something true that they didn't expect to hear, something slightly risky, something that shows you see a problem they haven't named yet. AI will never do this. AI is optimized to agree. It smooths edges, softens feedback, hedges conclusions. It is constitutionally incapable of saying, your current strategy isn't working, and here's exactly why, in the first 60 seconds of a conversation, in a way that makes the other person lean forward instead of hang up, because that requires being willing to lose the conversation in order to win the relationship. The consultants and freelancers who build trust fastest aren't the ones who are warmest or most impressive. They're the ones who say the thing the client already half knows but hasn't said out loud yet, and they say it calmly, early, before they've been hired to say it. That act of voluntary risk, putting truth before safety, is the fastest trust signal there is, and it's completely unavailable to a machine that's been trained to keep you happy.
So it's not about being likable, it's about being willing to not be liked.
For about 30 seconds, in exchange for being believed for years.
Okay, I have to ask the obvious thing. These are all real, I believe you. But what do I actually do this week? Because 6 months of knowing I'm good at things hasn't paid a single invoice.
Pick one person who already knows your work, someone you worked with in the last 3 years. Write them an email this week, not I'm available for freelance, something specific, something that uses what we just talked about. Who's the first person you'd write to?
Probably Sarah. She runs marketing at a skincare brand I worked with 2 years ago. She was always frustrated that their content felt generic.
Good. Write the first line right now, out loud.
Okay, hi Sarah, I hope you're doing well. I've been freelancing for the past 6 months and I'm reaching out because I think my background in content strategy could be a strong fit for what your team is working on. I'd love to reconnect and explore whether there's an opportunity to collaborate.
Stop. Read that back.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Why?
It sounds like every email she's ever deleted, it could have been written by anyone. By ChatGPT, it says nothing she doesn't already know and gives her no reason to reply.
That's taste. You just used it on your own writing. Now try again. What do you actually know about Sarah that no one else sending her an email today knows?
I remember she said once that everything they published could have been written about any skincare brand. She was genuinely bothered by it. Like it wasn't just a marketing complaint, she felt like the brand had no real voice.
That detail, use it, first line only.
Sarah, 2 years ago, you said something that stuck with me. You said everything your brand published could have been written about any skincare brand. I think I finally understand why that keeps happening. And it's not a writing problem.
Stop there. What's different?
She'll read the second line, she has to, because I just named something she said that bothered her, and I told her I have an answer, and I haven't asked for anything yet.
You use contextual memory to prove you were paying attention when no one else was. You used taste to diagnose a problem before she asked. And you used skill 5. You said something slightly risky in the first sentence. It's not a writing problem implies that what she's been doing hasn't worked. That's a small, uncomfortable truth, delivered before you've been hired to say it.
I almost didn't put that last line in. It felt too bold.
That hesitation is the thing to notice. AI would have taken it out. AI optimizes for approval. You left it in because something in you knew it was true and that she needed to hear it. That instinct is the whole difference between you and the tool that took your last job.
I've been 6 months trying to figure out what to say to people like her.
You knew what to say. You just didn't trust that the version of you that knew it was worth listening to. Send that email today, not this week, today. When she writes back, and she will, that's when you use skill 4. You don't wait until you know exactly what to offer her. You make the best call you can with what you have, and you correct as you go. The path gets clear behind you, not before you.
It feels small. 3 emails, 1 letter to Sarah after everything we just talked about.
Here's the larger picture. In 3 years, every company in the world will have access to the same generation tools, the same models, the same outputs, the same technically correct but forgettable content. The tools will be indistinguishable. The people using them will not be. The ones who will be worth the most, but not necessarily the richest, but the most irreplaceable, will be the ones who can do what you just did in that letter. Who can read what's really happening in a room? Who remember the thing the client said 2 years ago that everyone else forgot? Who can make a call when the AI keeps hedging? Who say the uncomfortable thing before they've been hired to say it? That gap between people who have those skills and people who don't is going to get wider every year, not because the skills are rare, because most people are going to spend the next 3 years getting better at prompting and not at any of this. The email to Sarah is not a small thing. It's the first proof that you're building in the right direction. Everything compounds from there.
In a world where the average is free.
The only thing worth being is genuinely good. You just proved you are. Go use it.